In this video, we'll try to deploy our backend API on Railway. So we have already set up and see everything. We have seen everything how the backend actually works in the local environment. Now this time I'll use Railway app as our deployment application, and we'll use Railway to deploy our backend. So just click on the official link and go to the railway.app. First, you need to log in. Just make sure that you log in and create a new project. Since we want to deploy our application from the GitHub, we'll select GitHub. And after that, you have to select the particular repository that you want to deploy. Since we want to deploy the backend API, we will select the backend API. If the API is or the repository is not visible there, just make sure that you have access to that particular repository or you're logged into the correct GitHub account. Just scroll down and select your repository. Once logged in, you will see all of the repositories that your account has access to. This is the Enatega Multivendor API. You will select it. We need to deploy a new one, so I'll select. I can add variables, or you can just say deploy now. But since we need deploy, we need to create variables, so that's why selecting variables is a good option. Just click on the raw editor, and it's just like we did in the local. Just go to the .env file and select all of these environment variables. And paste them over here. We do not have these two URLs right now, so you can just remove them. The server URL, we don't need them. And the connection string is the most important one. After that, you can click on update variables and you're done. If you want to update the environment variables, you can do them, add them in the future as well. Now go to the settings. You can see that the source repo is selected as the multi-vendor API. You can select the branch. Let's select the correct branch to deploy our application. If you're deploying a development build, you have to select a branch that is for development, and for staging you have to select a staging branch, and for production you have to select the branch for the production. Now in my case, this is main Enatega deployment. Let's create a new domain so that we can access the API. The port number should be 8001. This is what we are using, and this is the backend URL that we'll use on the front end side as well. Let's add a build command over here, which is by default npm run build. We do not need these commands right now because Express doesn't need them. We can just have a default command, which is node index. But we need a start command. By default it's npm run start, but we must type it over here. So you can just type npm run start, or if you have changed the command in the package.json, you have to change over here as well. We need only one replica. You can create multiple replicas as well for safety. You can type the any URL over here that can be used to check whether the server is up or not, like any root path, for example, or maybe any get API that you have developed that can be used by the server to check whether the server is actually working fine or not, because that API, if successful, will return 200 status code. But we do not need to do it for now. You can do it if you want to do it. We can delete the whole service as well, but we are not going to do that. So there are 9 changes. If we go to the Google, this is not accessible right now because we still have some changes and we need to deploy it. So just click on enter deploy, just click on deploy, and this will apply all the 9 changes to the deployment. Just wait a couple of seconds and this will deploy your application. Deployment in progress. Now it's publishing the image. You can click on the view logs to see what's happening in the real time. The deployment has been completed. You can see that we are getting deployment successful status. All right, so we can see that the backend API has been deployed successfully. Now the next important thing that we need to do is we need to create another app right next to the backend API. So for that I can just click on the cross button and then go to the create. This time I need a database, just like we did in the local setup that we created a Redis. Since the Redis was part of the Docker Compose file, so once you build up the Docker Compose file, it will automatically generate both the backend container and also the Redis. And then we added those three environment variables in the dot environment. So we have to create a database over here as well, and then copy those environment variables in our backend env. So just let's click on the add Redis, and this will actually create a Redis app over here. Just wait a couple of seconds. Alright, so Redis has also been deployed. Now we have the railway is actually applying 15 changes. So just click on the Redis and then go to the variables. You can see that we have a lot of environment variables that are inside the Redis, right? The only thing that matters or that are important to us are the ones that are highlighted, which is the Redis host, the Redis password, and Redis post. So let's see them one by one. So let me just copy them one by one and open up the notepad. Right, let's open up a new one, and this would be the Redis information, and this is going to be our host, right? And then let's go back again and then copy the password, go back, save the password as well, right? And then go back again, and this time we'll copy the port, save this as well in your notepad. This is going to be port, right? Now let's go back again to the railway and close the Redis app. Now currently the Redis is running, right? Let's open up the backend API and go to the variables, and this time we'll do the same thing. We have to add Redis over here, right? So I can just come down over here and open up my backend and copy these three environment variables, go back to the railway app and paste it over here, right? Now these the port and the host was for specifically for the local, but we can see that it's different for the deployed Redis. So we can just copy them one by one. Let's start with the host, right? This time we have a password as well, so you can just copy the whole password and then go back and paste it in the password environment variable. And this time in the local, the port that the Redis was actually using was 63799, but on the railway it's different. So I can just copy, I think it's different, I think it's the same, right? So it's the same, right? So we don't need to change the port, but in case if it's different, then you just update it. Now once you're done with that, you can just update the variables. Now we can see that once we deploy these changes, the backend API will be able to connect with the Redis. So just click on deploy and enter and close it. Now it's currently updating those changes. Okay, we got an error over here. Let's go back to the logs and see what is happening. The build logs. Okay, I don't think so that was a build error. I think the application has been deployed successfully, right? uh, but let's say if we can find a way to redeploy it. Let's say we have the source, then the network, or maybe let's close it again and then go to the backend API, go to the settings. Okay, so currently I'm unable to find the repo. Okay, all right, let's deploy it again. I disconnected the GitHub and then connected it again. So it's applying the changes, it's initializing the build again. All right, now it's deploying. So just wait a couple of seconds and this will deploy your application. Okay, so we can see that the application has been redeployed with the updated environment variables. Now we can just go to the settings and let's go down and find the public URL. Okay, where is the public URL? It should be somewhere up here. And this is the public URL. Just copy the public URL and paste it in the browser. If we receive any get, this means that the API is up and running. We can just go to the GraphQL as well just to make sure that the playground is also up and live. So we can see that the backend has been deployed successfully with the updated Redis credentials.